the GG Bullion podcast.
Welcome to the GG Bullion podcast. This is your host, Lenny, and today I have on Mountain Bullion. Link in the description if you want to check out his channel. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How's it going?
It's I'm doing good. It's good to have you on. We're going to talk about silver and gold, of course, the classic topics. Um, so so Trump won the election, and since then, also the Federal Reserve has lowered interest rates by, I think, 25 basis points. The US dollar's up. So, what are your thoughts on that whole situation where commodities are kind of down? Do you think that's an opportunity to buy, with the dip in precious metals? And just, kind of what's your whole take on that? And we'll kind of discuss.
Okay, you bet. Well, thanks for having me on. It's always great to be back on your show. Um,
Mhm.
we had talked on election night. The video's on my YouTube channel if anybody wants to check it out. And what we had discussed that evening was that gold and silver were probably going to take a hit after Trump got elected. And we even saw the price starting to go down in real time while we were still having that conversation.
Yeah.
Um, so for us in the stacking community, people who follow the market closely, this is something that was kind of expected. And so I hope people out there aren't panicking. Um, what I think is that right now, people in the US and some people around the world, they're very optimistic that Trump might be able to pull off some sort of economic miracle. And they also might not be thinking about it all that deeply yet. Right now, everyone's still excited that a new president was selected. Um, and he is thought of as being more fiscally responsible because he will be, and he'll be focusing on the economy more. Although what I think is, especially after inauguration day and as we start to get into early next year, people are going to be looking back and they're going to start kind of coming out of the ether and they're going to realize, wow, we're still 36 trillion in debt.
Mm.
Um, inflation is not as bad as it was, but it's not under control. And nothing has really changed with these markets. Of course, all the commodities went down. As you know, there's renewed strength in the dollar, especially in people's perception of the strength of the dollar. Um, so everything's taken a hit, and gold and silver, took a hit with them. Of all the commodities, silver actually took the smallest hit.
Mm.
And what I do think we'll see, and for me personally, maybe it'll be before that. I don't know. But I do think at some point next year, probably early next year, we're going to see people realize, especially with silver, the market fundamentals are so strong. We're still looking at a projected supply deficit. We've already been in a deficit for years in the silver market. And so, and it's about 20%, the total supply, with mining at about 850 million ounces. And then when you tack on recycling with that, you're looking at, like a billion ounces, and the demand's more like 1.2 billion. So
Mm.
if you could imagine just simple as this, if you have a vault and each day you take out 5 bars and then you put 4 back, eventually that vault will go empty.
Mm.
And so people are going to start looking at the situation with mining. 70% of the silver is still coming from mines that are not silver focused. So this is just byproduct. There isn't any new like big silver veins that have been found or anything like that. Um, the finite amount of silver is still dwindling. And
And yeah, and with that, as the supply decreases and we, um, you know, uh, excavate these the silver veins that are out there and get the byproducts and recycle. Seems like demand is coming up, and especially if we go down that path, which it seems we are, seems like a lot of the Western world is going down the path of like green energy. We have silver and solar panels, platinum and green hydrogen production, all of the metals in electric vehicles, anything electronic, all the circuit boards required for that. So I see demand going up, and personally, I think investment demand is going to go up as well. So we got, those two factors. So I think price is going to rise in the long term, of course.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know what's interesting is throughout most of history, silver was used as a monetary metal. Um, it, and very widespread around the world. A lot of different countries used silver for thousands of years
Mhm.
as money. Well, nowadays, even though it's not really used as a monetary metal anymore, um, what we do see is it powering the modern age. So every cell phone, it's not a lot. The average cell phone has 0.34 grams of silver in it. Every computer, remote controls, TVs, everything in the modern age needs silver. Um,
Hmm.
and so that demand is not going to go away, even
Yeah.
if we do see some of the Go Green initiatives scaling back in the United States, and
Mhm.
we don't know that we will, but let's just say that that does happen with the
Mhm.
Trump presidency. Well, all of these developing third world countries, if you can imagine, if you don't have access to a power grid and you are in a country that's developing and you've managed to get a decent job and you got a cell phone and you want to charge it at home. Well, you're going to end up getting solar panels,
Mhm.
without access to a grid. Solar panels aren't a bad option for someone who's trying to develop a remote property in the United States.
Mhm.
Um, and so there might be a minimal downtick in solar demand. Now, some of these emerging economies, unless things, really start falling apart, China's actually looking a little shaky right now. They're having a bit of a real estate crisis out there. They switched on the world's biggest solar power plant this year.
Mhm.
Um, and they might start slowing down a little bit. But even if the solar industry does take a hit internationally, um, when you look at all the other industries that need I'm sorry, that need silver, um, we're going to be looking at a supply deficit is the reality of the situation. Um, I think that those new solid state batteries are really exciting.
Mhm.
The idea of being able to travel, um, an average of 600 miles instead of 300 miles, and then it only taking 9 to 10 minutes to charge your car as opposed to hours. I think that's really going to revolutionize the potential for the electric vehicle market. Because right now, if you can imagine stopping at a gas station, you go use the bathroom, you wander around, you pick out some snacks and stuff like that, and then you get on your way. Well, you're at the gas station for about 10 minutes anyway. So that really is going to make them a viable long distance travel option where right now they're not.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of issues. I mean, that technology is going to advance. And I think as technology advances in general, uh, there's going to be more demand for precious metal, silver especially. I think the fundamentals are very strong. So, we got this dip. I think what we're looking at is we got a dip right now. I don't know how low it's going to go. At time of recording, silver's like $30.63 spot. Gold is like 2,623 spot in US dollars. Uh, we might see it go down a little more. I could see silver at the lowest, and of course, obviously none of this is financial advice, and I can't predict the future. So remember that. But I could see silver maybe going down to 27 at the lowest, really. I don't see it going much lower than that, I think, unless something like a black swan event happens. I don't see that happening. I think it's pretty strong. It hasn't even gone under 30. Um, So we'll see. I personally think this is a good buying opportunity for both silver and gold, and to a lesser extent platinum. Platinum's also down. Um, I think it's a good buying opportunity personally. I think you maybe agree for both gold and silver, especially silver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know exactly what will happen with the price.
Mhm.
I could see it going into the upper 20s. Hopefully it'll hold at 30. Um, either way, what I do feel like the suppression at the commodities exchange is so extreme. It's kind of hard for people to wrap their minds around. Um, there'll be times where they'll slosh around paper contracts in a matter of 3 days.
Mhm.
That'll be the equivalent of an entire year's of mining supply. And so the amount of pressure that they put on the silver market to suppress the price is really impressive. And it's not all that big of a market
Yeah.
because there's not all that much of it out there. And I think that at some point within, I don't know exactly, but let's just say the next 3 to 4 years, the supply crunch is going to become apparent to anyone who's even passively looking at the market. And I think when that happens,
Mhm.
we'll really see the squeeze start. Um, and
Yeah.
and it's coming, even if it goes down from here, I do still see this as being a good time to buy.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. For gold, gold is more known, has a larger market capitalization. I think silver is, like you said, it gets tamped down with all these paper contracts. And then as far as the physical metal, it's hard to keep track of it. It's difficult to get accurate information as to, how much silver is actually out there. Um, but in the long term, I think it's almost a sure thing, and that's how I feel. And it's like we just got in early and are waiting it out until that squeeze happens, and pretty much the average person that's putting their money into something else looks at that and it becomes very apparent that, oh, this is a good opportunity, and a lot of capital starts pouring into it, and it'll squeeze. Gold, I feel like, is more stable. It can soak up more money because gold's rise over the past year has been huge.
Yeah, really impressive. It's hit multiple all-time highs this year.
Oh yeah, it feels like this year almost every week or every 2 weeks, it's like a new all-time high for gold. And silver's kind of followed it a little bit, but silver has been almost neglected. I feel like yeah, we're just in early. If a million people in just the United States, if a million people that don't have any silver woke up tomorrow and started stacking, that would move a lot of metal.
Yeah, I feel like silver's got a lot of catching up to do.
Mm,
Um, and it wouldn't take that much to put a lot of pressure on this market. The thing that's really too bad is because of the price difference between um the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Western markets. They have been absorbing some silver. There has been some arbitrage in regards to
mm,
that. And then when you hear about India buying these just, insanely large amounts of silver, most of that silver won't come back to the United States.
yeah.
Um, it has become more uh, attractive for regular folks in India to buy silver um, because of the reduction in the capital gains tax on precious metals out there. And when now India produces a lot of silver, and when they sell their silver jewelry, 90% of it gets sold to China, and not a whole lot of silver leaves China.
Yeah, I
Um,
imagine it goes into all sorts of industrial uses. And that's something also is, as far as average people not silver almost being neglected. people know oil has, a million uses basically. Silver is really the same, it's essential for modern society, and it's such a crucial element to have for all of these technologies. And I feel like that information, if that gets out there and people realize it, because I think the average person is probably confused about what silver even is. I think people understand gold better. Like the average person that doesn't stack, doesn't invest in the stuff, just has a passing knowledge of it.
Right. That's a really good point. And what's interesting is I think it was 3 weeks ago, the Silver Academy put out an article, and what they're projecting is that silver will be the first element on the periodic table to get exhausted, to get completely depleted. Um, and so, as time wears on and we get closer to these events taking place, whenever it is, 8 years from now, 10 years, 20, I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, it at some point people will recognize its value. And right now it's being used very wastefully. I mean,
Oh yeah.
at $30 an ounce. If somebody takes an old solar panel off their roof, they're not going to go dig the solar out of it. They're just going to throw it in the garbage. Um, because they're like, well, I don't know how many hours I'll have to spend digging this out, and
Yeah.
then who will I sell it to? This whole process, and then the
Yeah.
end result is $30 an ounce. Like, no way, I'm just throwing this away.
Yeah, because
Um,
you have to harvest it out of whatever, transport it, refine it, and then remelt it. Because refineries usually, yeah, it depends. It goes to a refinery, and then goes to another refinery, and then it finally gets minted into bars or whatever, good delivery bars or coins, or it goes back into industrial use. And yeah, it's just that whole process is not worth $30.
Exactly. And so they just throw it away. And so maybe folks, if people who come across this, maybe consider if you're just going to just throw um a solar panel, an old cell phone, an old computer in the garbage, if you've ever considered going through and getting all of the gold parts out, maybe pull the silver parts as well. Maybe start a bucket, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, it's not
Because
a
at
bad
some
idea.
point, and you still might, who knows, regular folks still might not want to go picking through it. But at some point, if someone's willing to buy that
Mhm.
just because there's silver in it and they'll pick the silver out, I don't know, maybe it's just something to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I have like my old cell phone sitting there just waiting for it to be worth it to go through. Uh, but yeah, it's really interesting. And I think like you were mentioning how a bunch of silver from India that goes to China doesn't come out of China because it goes to industrial use, or military use, and how most people just don't realize how crazy it is that this material, this element is only, it wasn't too long ago where spot price was, $24.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Here, I'll look something up right now while we're talking. Let's
Okay.
see what it was at this same time last year. Let's just see what that looks like.
Okay.
Because I think it's like, I don't know, it's probably $7 or $8 higher, but let me pull up the exact number real quick.
Mm.
Bear with me for just a moment.
Yeah. And of course, premiums are higher than they used to be back, I would say pre 2019-ish, pre-COVID. Um, you know, because it's got to like keep up with because on the paper market, the price gets tamped, but in real life with silver, you got to have those premiums there because it's actually worth more in real life. So that's
Right.
something to take into account too. Um, but yeah, what was silver at this time last year? I'm curious.
Okay. Well, I cannot get the 11th itself, but I on the
Uh,
10th, it was 22.26, and on November 13th of 2023, it was 22.33.
yeah,
So,
uh,
it's up, it's up.
yeah,
Even though we just got a good smashing after
hmm,
the election. And like Orrin had mentioned that night, people will take advantage of different situations. So it wouldn't, be surprising if the banksters decided to take advantage of it. It was a good time for them to really give the price a good whack. And now we're seeing where it's at now. But yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to quit um or to keep buying at this pace. I wouldn't be looking to sell. I wouldn't be looking to stop stacking, anything like that.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of time till all the sheeple out there realize that nothing has changed. The dollar's going to keep inflating. Even if they get it under its target range at 2%, it's still losing 2% of its value each year. And if you have savings, let's just say if you have, you know, a little piggy bank, or if you just want to go stuff the dollars, somewhere, they're going to lose their value. If
Yeah.
you
Or
hold
just
on to silver.
in a savings account, like most people keep most of their money in, just a regular savings account. You get a little bit of interest, but that's not even keeping up with inflation, not even close. So you may as well take some of that and put it into assets like gold and silver. Silver's up in the long term. It's going to go up in the long term. Gold is way up. It's just it's a safer place to store your wealth. Which, for anybody that's this far into this video or listening to this, that doesn't stack gold or silver, like I really implore you to look into it because the fundamentals are there. And I think even at this price, the prices that it's at right now, it's a good time to buy, in my opinion, especially for silver.
Absolutely. And I,
And
I I don't think that I think that we're going to have a hiccup in the silver bull run here for a few months.
mhm,
Um, Maybe it'll be a little longer, maybe it'll be a little shorter. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think it's going to resume, and I think it's going to resume um, well before the end of next year. Of course, I don't know this for sure. This is just me
yeah,
speculating, but the fundamentals of the silver market are so strong. There's a lot of analysts out there that think it's the most undervalued asset on the planet. Um, and you know what else I thought was interesting is after everybody found out that Trump was president, which I was happy about, but I'm also realistic about it. Trump can't create an economic miracle. I mean, he's not talking about putting us back on sound money.
yeah.
Um,
It's going to be
Now,
business as usual for the most part
I
with
agree.
how our system runs. Yeah.
Now he did talk about buying Bitcoin and using it as a strategic
Mhm.
reserve asset. I don't know if that'll happen, but just the fact that he talked about that probably helped Bitcoin's price rise that we saw. But you
Yeah.
know what else I think helped is it really is a dollar-based asset. So
Yes. That's
i-
mhm.
if Kamala had gotten elected, we would have seen the opposite. Gold and silver would have spiked, and Bitcoin would have crashed along with all the other speculative assets. The
Yeah.
thing with gold and silver is they, well, not only are they real money, um, they're also a tangible asset.
Mhm.
And so similar to land, they're real. And the thing with silver in particular is it has a lot of useful functions in the modern age.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
And
just as Go
you
ahead.
know, with with this dip and everything, I've talked to a lot of people, because we've had because at the point we're at now, it's like we had the COVID shutdowns and that crashed silver and gold, and then it's been going up since then. There was like a little dip, a good opportunity to buy right when the shutdowns happened. But it's been going up for quite a long time, same with gold. Um, but I've talked to a lot of people that are just getting into it or just thinking about it. And I know at least in the Detroit area where I live, we've got hit pretty hard by inflation. And there's, a lot of people are having a tough time economically, whether it's just groceries costing a lot more or people living paycheck to paycheck. And we've got hit by the aftermath of COVID and inflation. And people are like, well, I feel like I don't have enough money to put into silver. So I did want to talk about almost kind of stacking on a budget for people that are maybe on the fence about it, where it's like, oh, I don't have that much money, and thinking they have to buy a lot, where buying a little over time is your dollar cost averaging and different ways to do that.
Yeah, I do think dollar cost averaging is the best way to accumulate. Um, I do know that there's certain folks, um, at some point they'll sell a major asset, for example,
Hmm.
and they'll take a significant amount of the profits from that. Let's say it was a house, and they'll buy a bunch of silver at once. And all the bullion sellers love those people. Like somebody who
Yeah.
comes in and drops whatever it is, 30,000 or something, maybe more in one shot. Um, and then they never see him again.
Yeah.
Now,
And
now
then
the
you're locked in at that price and that those
yeah.
premiums. Yeah.
Yeah, so that person, whatever the price was, that one day that they went in there, um, that's it. That was their price entry point.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've been accumulating over years, yeah, I mean, your average price entry point is going to be more like $20 or something. I guess depending on when you started. But even let's just say if you started a couple years ago, your average price entry point's probably going to be in the low to mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know. So even if you do hit one of the higher points here and there, your average price is still going to be way down. And I think the best way to do it, what people can do is look at their monthly budget, whatever's going on, and you know, to figure out what would be best for them. So maybe it would be 5%
Mm-hmm.
of their income every 2 weeks, or 10% of their income once a month, or
Yeah.
whatever they come up with, and
And
just
there,
accumulate it a little by little like that. And you can kind of play around in that week or within the few days of when you're thinking
mhm.
about buying, watch the market, think, oh, if it is someone who's new to the market, a lot of times the banksters like to tamp it in the morning in New York.
Mhm.
So at some point, for me being out here in Colorado, it's usually, um, I don't know, anywhere between, like, let's say like 9 and 11. A lot of times the price will go down a little bit on a weekday.
Mhm.
And then the price will be stable all weekend. A lot of times they like to try and give it a good whack before market close on Friday. That's a fun little thing they do.
Yeah.
And that gives you the whole weekend to kind of, look around for your best deal at different
Yeah.
um,
Well,
exchanges.
the other thing too, like especially for people that don't have a lot of money to spend, that are trying to put some money away, or really you're not spending it, you're trading dollars for hard money. But like even let's say, you on average bought 2 ounces a week, over 10 years, that'd be like 520 ounces. So
Sure.
it adds up over time. Like even if you have, and there's different things that I kind of want to bring up, but 90% silver, like the $half, you can probably get one right now for 8, $9 in that general range. Probably more like $9. But if you can get one of those every paycheck or every other paycheck at a local coin shop, if you just keep doing that and putting it away, the silver price is going to go up over time. And, there's other things you can do. There's spot deals if you save up, get free shipping if you get 200 or more on most of the bullion dealers. Let's say you don't have a local coin shop near you. If you save up, there's spot deals on all these different websites. Another thing that people can do, which I feel like I know I do this and people I know do this. If you have family members that also either are stackers or want to get into it, and it's like a group of, 2 or 3 people that don't, it's like, oh, I don't have 200 to drop right now. If everybody throws in, a portion of money and makes an order, get the free shipping, you can do it that way. And I do that I kind of have a local group of people that I do that. So there's a lot of different options out there where you don't have to drop a large amount of money at once, and you can build it up over time. for people that are, really, kind of struggling with money, but still want to put some away. Um, those are all options. And I know we were talking about Goldbacks and you have one out on your table. Uh, for gold, because gold is so expensive right now, um, you can stack silver and then trade it into gold. Like I have taken silver to a local coin shop and done just pretty much a straight trade for gold. So that's something that you can do as well. So I don't know if you have any tips for trying to, aside from like spot deals and other things. But we can talk about the silver gold rate or gold silver ratio.
Well, yeah, if you wanted to, you could keep an eye on the gold to silver ratio. This is something that we wouldn't see play out until much later in the bull market. But over the last 20 years, we've seen the gold to silver ratio drop under 55 to 1 for pretty long periods of time. Um, we even saw it in the last 15 years drop under 40 to 1 at one point. Now this isn't anything that's too crazy. Like I did the math a few weeks ago, and if we had a gold to silver ratio of 55 to 1 at that time, silver would have been about $50. And it's gone down a little since then. So let's say in the upper 40s somewhere.
Yeah.
Um so it is what it is.
Well,
But
there's also the opposite too, because in the, not too distant past, I mean, I'm talking this year, I mean, gold silver ratio went up to like not 91 something, I believe, at various points early this year. In like 2022, it went almost to 100 in intraday trading. So if you hold gold and you want to get silver, you can do it both ways.
yeah, and I mean back in like either late 2019 or early, yeah, I think late 2019, it went over 100. And then it must have been 2011 is when it had gone under 40 to 1.
Mm,
Now, if you're watching the market and you really want to play that ratio quick, because sometimes especially those really big spikes, high and low, are kind of brief.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
and if you're really thinking, well, I'd like, especially if you're thinking you want to offload a significant amount of your stack in a rapid fashion, you're going to want stuff that the local coin shop will feel like they could resell easily, and also that they won't, really try and rip your face off with.
Mm,
So you're going to want really common stuff and nothing too crazy. Um, if it seems like, well, hey, a bunch of if I have 1,000 ounce bar, that's the way to go. But you walk in the wrong coin shop and they're like, we already got 5 of those that have been sitting here for years. Sorry, we don't want to buy it.
mm,
And then you're having to try and sell that thing on eBay, and you're having to pay for shipping for this giant hunk of silver. Anyway, I shouldn't be getting too detailed on it, but basically it's something that me and Leonard had discussed briefly before. Anything over a kilo of silver, and I think you're getting into a risky zone
yeah.
of the coin shops might not want to buy a whole lot of those all at once. Now, if you come in and you have a bunch of 5 and 10 ounce bars and recognizable coins or rounds, so like eagles, maples, philharmonics, or like buffaloes for rounds, um, that's something that you could probably offload a whole bunch of at once if that's what you were going for. Now, me personally, I mean, I'm hoping to um, pass on a significant amount of my silver as inheritance at some, when I die. So some of it I'm not planning on ever selling. Um, but anyway, it's just something to keep into consideration. If you are trying to play that ratio, And I know people have successfully done it in the past.
Mhm.
Really think about what you're buying.
Yeah, yeah, because it is. These are definitely long-term investments. It's a long game. It's for me and most stackers. I don't really think there's any stacker I've talked to that I know personally that it's not a lifelong game. Like I'm gonna keep this till I am, 90 years old if I live that long, or I'm going to pass it down to my family or whatever. But yeah, I agree with that. I would like, yeah, think about what you're buying. If you're going to play the ratio, because you could take some gold and it's like, oh, I can get so much silver. And it's like, yeah, it basically is like some free silver if you're playing the ratios right. But yeah, I wouldn't put it all. It would be cool to have a big, huge bar, but depending on how much money you have, yeah, I wouldn't go over a kilo for silver. Um, I personally, don't know if I would go over an ounce for gold, especially with how high the price has been going and how high it'll probably be in the future. Uh, the only thing I might get more than a kilo for silver would be like those crazy like 10 kilogram Perth Mint coins, like something that's very numismatic, that's not just a huge bar. Uh,
Yeah, and it's so hard to say like what'll happen.
mhm.
But what's interesting, and I might get one at some point, but a lot of times even just the 10-ounce coins, have such a big premium, but I'm always looking around for good deals. Now, oftentimes what I think for storage and just for convenience, when you're looking at the really big stuff, you should probably consider gold also at that point.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but you just never know. And of course, this isn't financial advice. Anything in this video is not financial advice. So
correct.
everyone will have to figure out what's best for them.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
when it comes to premiums, that is probably the biggest downfall of these Goldbacks is the premiums are awful.
yeah.
Um, this
The
this is
premiums right now are on those one gold backs. I did the math, and unless you are getting one for a spot deal, at least online right now, the premiums are like 107%,
yeah, they're
which
they're completely ridiculous. I was telling Leonard earlier that I first got one of these because it was a spot deal price, and
mm,
then this is all that I have is just these few here, because the premiums are really bad. Gold's basically going to have to double in value before you'll be able to get your money back out of these. And so, honestly, I recommend against them. I just like the art on these; they're so beautiful, and so I got one of each of the 1,000th ounce, um, and of course, one of them I got at spot. But I do recommend against buying them.
yeah. Now with the Goldbacks, I know they're coming out with a Florida one relatively soon. It hasn't come out yet. And I've noticed there's kind of more hype around it. And with gold prices going high, I've heard that kind of leads to more hype around it because, you can get one of those, one Goldbacks for $5 and some change at the time of recording. Even though it has like a over 100% premium where gold price would have to double, more than double. I have talked to some coin shops, at least in my area, and at least with them and in certain private party purchases, they do seem to hold their premium pretty well. Now, it's just a matter of will they continue to hold their premium pretty well? I don't know. It is an interesting experiment. I have started, I got one at Spot. I've had a couple. I've recently just got, a couple more. I think I'm gonna start personally getting just like one or two if I am making an order or if they have them at the coin shop or whatever, just get one every once in a while. Because there are some cool things that I want to look more into, like the Goldback lease, which is basically kind of how they manage. the whole system with the Goldbacks, where you actually get an interest rate. They kind of, I believe they hold them. So, you put in, let's say 100 Goldbacks at a 2% interest rate. So you get two essentially free Goldbacks a year. So there are some interesting things going on with that. I haven't looked too far into them, but as far as gold goes, I wouldn't put all my money into that. I would save up and get, at least like a 5 gram bar or a quarter-ounce coin or something, where you're paying that lower premium and not the insane premium. They are cool, but I personally like to, I want to have a little bit more of them in my stack just to see what happens with them in the future, because who knows, it could become a lot more popular and it could hold the premiums over time. But it also could not, and then you're just selling them for melt. So there's a lot of risk there. But I personally think it's interesting the stuff they're doing with them, and if they do expand to a lot more states and become more popular, and it becomes kind of a staple almost, because things like the Silver Eagle, that's going to maintain its premium. The Maple Leafs and Britannias are going to maintain their premium. The Goldbacks,
Well,
like, will they
right.
become something like that?
I
Maybe.
mean, we have seen times where the premiums on Eagles spiked.
Oh yeah.
It was in, I believe it was February of 23, or no, March. Anyway, not all that long ago, we had a bank collapse and there was a bit of a panic for like a week, and all the sellers were on back order, and the premiums on Eagles spiked. Um, and then you'll see times where the premiums on Eagles go way down. Most years the premiums on them are so high that I wouldn't recommend them to people. I do
Mhm.
recommend anyone in America have at least some. It's kind of
Yeah.
a must have for US stackers. Everybody should probably have a couple of Eagles around.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but this year, I did put out that top five silver coins to stack, and the Eagles made my list, top five for this year because the premiums were down. Um, and so with just the reduction in premiums, there would be some people who kind of lost their butts if they had bought Eagles at the wrong time, if they were trying to sell them, like now or
Yeah.
throughout most of this year. Now, that is a really important thing to bring up. If you buy something at a high premium, it's going to be really important that you try and resell that at a high premium also.
Mm.
No matter what it is.
Yeah. Don't be lazy about it.
Right, because you'll just get your face ripped off. And
Yeah.
and I think
Especially
any
if you're going to sell to a local shop, call around, or if you're down for it, go on Facebook Marketplace or eBay. Like, yeah, if you're selling high premium stuff, try and get that premium out. I know that kind of almost goes without saying, but I know what it's like to feel lazy. So just try and keep that in the back of your head. Don't be lazy about it.
Right, absolutely. And it will be interesting to see where they go. I mean, it might sound kind of silly, but I would love to see this be our actual dollar bills.
I
You know,
I
um,
absolutely would too. I wish if we had that and then we had silver coins and just it would be it would be classic. We'd go back to how
the sound money.
humanity, yeah, for all of human civilization, basically, we'd go back to that aside from the past century and a half.
Right, yeah. So, who knows what'll happen with these. Um, but I don't recommend going heavy on them. I just have a couple around because I like the art on them basically. And so I just have that little mini collection, and that's it. That's all the Goldbacks I have.
Yeah, I mean, by weight, they are almost nothing of my gold stack, But I do, and maybe it is kind of the hype right now. I am getting more of them, which who knows? Just the fact that there are shops around me where they do hold the premium. Who knows if they'll do that in the long term? But in the long term, I plan on holding my stack for really retirement or to pass on to my family. So
Well,
I, I'm
yeah,
waiting
just
quite a
to
while.
point out the extreme opposite. the LCS I go to doesn't carry them. So I literally think they would not buy them off me if I walked in there.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So it depends where you live. I think if you're gonna buy, yeah, I think really I think people should call around to their local places if you do plan selling locally and see like what do they pay the highest premium on and maybe stack some more of that. Because it does vary shop to shop and different areas of the US and what country you're in. I know most of my viewers are in the US, but some are in Canada, some are in Russia, some are in Australia, some are in the UK. I could go on, but for you international people, I'm sure it's different there. So everybody needs to kind of stack what fits their situation and geographical location.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play it really safe, just always get as close to spot price as you can. Um, that's and also something that's easily recognizable when possible. So they're liquid, so it won't be hard to offload them if you ever decide you want to do that.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean that's generally a solid advice. I would say. I mean, not legal financial advice, but just a general common sense. And if you do want to get into numismatics and don't know too much about that, I'll try and put in the corner of the screen a link to a video that we and Lauren did on stacking numismatic pieces. So I'll link that probably in the description. And it should be on screen right now. But in general, if you don't really want to get into that numismatic game, just try and get close to spot. And, I think that now, really think most of the time it's a good time to buy, especially when we have dips like this. I know we've talked about like how, we've been talking for probably about 45 minutes now. Gone over a lot of stuff, but it's just interesting to see where this is going to go as we go into 2025. It seems like 2024 has kind of flown by. Um, but I think in the long term, the prices are going to keep going up. That's the fundamentals. That's what seems to always be happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of time till it comes back around. Um, and who knows where it could go. Yeah, 2024 went by really fast. If you look all the way back to 1884, not that far north of you, there was a mine called the Silver Islet Mine that was under Lake Superior. And I crunched the numbers. If anyone wants to see details on it, I have a video called the Silver Islet Mine. Um, and I estimate roughly when the silver price was a little lower when I made the video than it is now, but roughly silver would have to be worth about $125 an ounce to be equivalent to its purchasing power at the time when that mine was operational.
Mhm.
And I think it's a really good example of right now, there is no way you could mine silver under a lake for $30 an ounce.
No.
I mean, it would be totally impossible. I mean, just labor costs alone would completely
Mhm.
prevent it. Um, and so it just goes to show how insanely undervalued silver is right now. And I think it's just a matter of time till humanity wakes up to it.
Yeah.
It might go down a little from here. It would be marginal, like Leonard was talking about in the upper 20s probably.
Mhm.
It might not, maybe it'll hold at 30. I don't know, but at some point it's gonna bounce back. And I do think its bull run is gonna continue on. I think this is just a lull here, that might last a few months, maybe 6 months. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think that we and you know, just kind of people that are stacking now or have been stacking for a little bit in general, like we're just the small percentage of like retail investors, I guess, that have seen the light, so to speak, and we're waiting for it to happen. Because even like you said with the that old mine on the bottom of Lake Superior that beat you said 125 an ounce to be worth it to go get it basically.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I estimate the equivalent purchasing power would be today, and that was
Okay.
enough for them to be able to engage in that activity in that time period. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how undervalued it is.
Yeah, and I definitely think like even like 125, like I I would almost bet my life that we will see that in my lifetime, probably in like 20 years, if not sooner. I mean, I'm not
Absolutely.
can't
I
predict
mean,
the future, and I'm talking like, 2024 dollars, not counting the inflation that it might be in 20 years. Um, but
right. And I mean, it might be in the next 5 or 6 years, but yeah, I agree. Definitely in our lifetimes, we will
yeah,
see that.
and I know there's some people, and I kind of was thinking about this while we were talking about it, and I did want to bring this up because I've heard other people on YouTube that disagree with that, that think that, the only way silver is going to go over 100 is if the US dollar super inflates, and then everything will be bad. And like, I don't believe that. I think silver is like seriously undervalued. I think right now, if the market were relatively fair, spot silver would be somewhere between 60 and 80 an ounce. And people I've talked to that do this for a living and have been doing it for a long time, coin shop owners, people that work there. I've talked to a lot of them and asked them that question, like, if the market were fair, where do you think silver would be at? And they usually say something that's like between 50 and $80 right now, like over the past 2 years that I've been asking that question to people that, do this for a living. Uh, and I pretty much agree with that. I don't know what would you kind of peg it at if you said like the market was relatively fair and there wasn't all this fraud in the paper contracts. What do you think the price of silver would be?
Gosh, that's really hard to say.
Yeah.
So I had seen an article in the past. I want to say it was early this year, and what they had crunched some numbers, and what they came up with was it was totally insane. I think that what they determined that is if you base the silver price only on trading that happened when the commodities exchange was open,
Mhm.
silver would have been like 10 cents or so. It was something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's just
Uh,
something nonsensical because that's
because
what it is.
that's how much downward pressure they put on the price. It's insane.
Yeah.
If it was to disappear, um, I don't know what would happen. Well, one thing I can tell you is, it would be like, people have used all kinds of different examples. I think Orn's was a rubber band snapping. I
Mhm.
think Ron's was a volleyball that had been held down under the water in a pool, and then it just explodes out of it.
Yeah. It would be like
Um,
mine would be like it's a, I don't know, volcano exploding, like a Yellowstone just blows up. Like it would be like that.
like yeah, like something that had been held under extreme pressure, getting released, and it's really hard to say. I think if they just even reduced the amount of trading they could do, where let's just say they put in a rule that said you can't trade more than 1 year of global mining supply in 1 week, because a
Mhm.
lot of times they'll trade that much within a week, and sometimes it's within like 2 days.
Yeah.
um then I think we would see a price that, if they put just some reasonable stop on the trading they could do with the paper, um we'd probably see it, I don't know, yeah, around 50 or 60. If the commodities exchange just didn't exist, but I don't see any way it wouldn't be over $100.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thinking about that, I almost wanted to say like if yeah, and no, if the commodities exchange didn't exist and we had a completely like fair like physical market where there's or at least at the very minimal paper contracts, like not how it is now, where like you said, they're moving years of mining supplies within like a day, um, which is kind of
It's just
ridiculous.
crazy.
And they're just moving around numbers. Like
Yeah.
that's not real.
Yeah,
Like
they don't even have, and I So they say that they'll do 400 right now, about 408 contracts per 1 ounce of silver. Um, and so they don't even have to have much exposure to this silver.
So
They
if they're doing 400 some contracts per 1 ounce of silver jumped to 500 an ounce.
Yeah,
Theoretically, they just disappeared. I would have to do the weird math on it. That's kind of
yeah, I don't know exactly how that would translate, but if
Mhm.
it went, let's just say if it went to like a historic average, I'll just do crunch a number real quick for 20 to 1. If we were looking at like all of human history.
Yeah, it would probably revert to like 20 to 1, 15 to 1, something like that.
So let's
I don't
see.
know why I didn't revert to history. I, I keep talking about the future,
That would put
but
us at $131 an ounce if it was if it was 20 to 1. It'd be $131 an ounce right now.
that sounds pretty reasonable. I
Right. Because I think that the 15 to 1 you brought up is the true historic average. And so I was
mm,
just adding a little onto it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, because there would be some fuckery going on. Like they're all. I don't think we would be able to completely eradicate that. So instead of 15 to 1, be like 20 to 1 because there'd still
I,
be some weird stuff going on.
I think you're right. And if nothing else, I think it's the mentality of people today because they're just not used to it, seeing it
Mhm.
in really high numbers. But if it was 15 to 1, it would be $175 an ounce.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think going into it's just I don't know. I think silver is one of the best, like in my opinion, like sure thing opportunities in my lifetime. Or if I'm wrong, then definitely in my like younger family members that are going to inherit it lifetime.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you what I think is huge is it's an actual tangible asset.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's not a whole lot of stuff out there for people to invest in. Right now, the housing market's kind of broken, but largely due to a bunch of people who aren't supposed to be in the country right now who also need, a
Hmm.
shelter. And then the institutional investing did some damage too.
Yeah.
Um, BlackRock, their subsidiaries, Invitation Homes is really a BlackRock company, for example, that's been buying up a bunch of residential real estate, and that's kind of messed up the market. Um, and so, with vacant land, I would say you could almost see silver and gold more like vacant land right now. Like it's something that you could park some money in, and then
Mhm.
as time goes by and inflation, keeps ticking along, you could resell it at some point in the future at the new inflated value. And the price entry point for silver is just accessible for everyone.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
like I kind of was talking about earlier, I mean, you can literally, I used a $50 as an example, but I'll use a mercury dime or whatever. It's an example. I mean, you can literally go spend $3 and get some silver, do that every week.
right. And little by little, eventually you'll have a stack going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with just how it's interesting because I did over the past year or so, I've done a couple polls on X/Twitter and on Reddit that have got, hundreds of responses, and it's, stackers. And I kind of asked like, what's going on? Basically, I don't remember how I worded it, but it was essentially like, have you cut back on stacking because you are, spending too much on groceries, basically, like you're having economic hard times. Have you cut back on stacking? Are you able to stack more? Have you stopped stacking completely? And the majority of those people, and it's like all groups of silver and or gold stackers, um, I think it came out to probably the average would be like 60% of people have said that they've cut back on stacking, or there's some people that have stopped stacking completely. And these are people that want to buy more, they just can't because of like all the goods that they need to buy, or their health insurance or their doctor's appointments costs more. So if we get into a position where there's more capital in those people's hands, then that's going to rise the price up as well once those people are able to put more capital into silver and gold.
Right. Absolutely. And who knows, maybe wages will start to keep up, but right
Mhm.
now the economy is a little broken.
Yeah.
So hopefully things will change. Um, but yeah, I do think it's still a good buy.
Yep,
Absolutely.
I agree. We've been talking for probably about an hour now, I think. So yeah, I know we've talked about quite a lot of things. But anybody that's still listening here at the end, if you're not a stacker somehow and you listen to this whole episode, congratulations. I love you. Please like and comment, number one. Number two, and subscribe. Uh, Number two, I would implore you to really look into silver and gold stacking. If you're living kind of paycheck to paycheck, I haven't been in the best financial position recently. I've just been buying little by little, going in with groups to get that free shipping, going in with groups even to get um, silver at spot orders, hypothetically at different addresses. So there's things that you can do to lower your dollar cost average or to just get a little bit at a time to stack up. That'd be kind of my closing thoughts because I just think it's a great long-term investment for my entire lifetime.
Yeah, keep stacking and don't lose faith. Don't panic. And I love you guys. Appreciate anyone checking out my channel, and always great to speak with you, Leonard.
Yep, and I will down in Mountain Bullion down in the description. Also, check out his channel. Check out my other videos if you haven't seen them, and keep stacking. Everybody have a great night and or morning. Enjoy your coffee and or beer or whatever, tea. Have a good one. Bye.